Have you ever had to push off your thighs just to stand up from a chair? Have you ever stepped up a stair and felt like you were lifting a heavy weight? Or maybe you were just walking across the room and your body felt unsteady, wobbly, even though the floor was flat. If so, you're not alone. I've been there too. And for a while I just thought, I'm getting old, it's normal. But then something made me stop and question that. Why is standing up, a basic movement, suddenly so difficult? I wasn't in pain. I hadn't been injured, but my legs were getting weaker, even though I was eating well and getting enough sleep. That's when I learned this wasn't just normal aging. It was a silent sign of muscle loss, a biological condition called sarcopenia. Every year after age 60, we lose 1 to 3% of our muscle mass, even if we keep eating the same way. In 5 years, you could lose up to 15% of the strength in your legs without even noticing. So what's the real danger? Muscle loss doesn't come with pain, no swelling, no clear warning. It creeps in quietly like a ticking clock. Until one day you're bracing on a chair to stand up, avoiding stairs or afraid of slipping in the bathroom. Nobody talks to you about this. Nobody shows you how to stay ahead of it. But here's the good news. This condition isn't fixed. It's not permanent. And it doesn't have to lead to losing your independence. I started digging deeper, and I discovered something surprisingly simple that almost no one talks about. With just 3 specific vitamins, taken the right way, at the right dose, at the right time, you can start improving leg strength within days. No gym needed. No spending thousands on physical therapy. Just the right nutrition, at the right time. In this content, I'll share with you why weak legs aren't just about getting older, the real biological mechanism behind your loss of balance, the 3 vitamins your body is silently crying out for, and how to combine them simply, safely, and effectively. I'm not a doctor. I'm someone who's been through it, and I know the frustration of feeling like your body just isn't responding anymore. If you feel like you're losing control over your legs, or you simply want to move through your days with more confidence, what follows might help you get back on track. Take it one step at a time, but take it with knowledge, intention, and the right direction. Vitamin D3, the switch that activates your entire musculoskeletal system. Did you know that vitamin D3 isn't just about bones? It's actually the master switch for your muscles, nervous system, and the entire movement apparatus. Not everyone realizes this, especially after age 60 when your body stops producing D3 like it used to. Your skin gets thinner. Your kidneys and liver slow down. You spend less time outdoors. As a result, your D3 levels drop significantly without you even noticing. No warnings, no pain, just a gradual slowdown, heavier legs, loss of balance, getting tired from walking. Climbing stairs becomes a challenge. Sometimes you feel like you no longer have full control over your legs. That's not random. It's the natural consequence of vitamin D3 deficiency, a nutrient that plays a crucial role in signaling between your brain, muscles, and bones. D3 helps your body absorb calcium to maintain bone density. But that's just the beginning. More importantly, it supports proper muscle contraction and ensures your nerves transmit signals quickly and accurately. Without enough D3, muscles become less responsive. Your nervous system slows down, you stand up slowly, you walk slowly, you turn slowly, and then you're more likely to fall. So how can you tell if you're low on D3? Even without a blood test, there are signs. Tired legs after just a light walk, nighttime leg cramps, pain in your knees, hips, or heels, a sense of imbalance even on flat floors, or difficulty sleeping paired with mild anxiety. All of these are early signs of D3 deficiency, but they're often mistaken for just getting old. Researchers at the University of Birmingham, UK, gave adults over 65 a daily dose of 800 IU of vitamin D3. After just 5 days, their average leg strength increased by 19%. Another study in China found that seniors who took D3 and did light physical activity saw significant improvements in muscle strength and balance. Harvard's Geriatric Research Center discovered that people with low D3 levels had a 40% higher risk of falling or being hospitalized compared to those with normal levels. So how much D3 is enough? For healthy adults over 60, the recommended dose is 800 to 1000 IU per day. For those who have fallen before, show clear signs of weakness, or have muscle loss, the dose should increase to 1500 to 2000 IU, always under medical supervision. Take D3 in the morning or at lunch, after a meal that includes healthy fats like salmon, eggs, Greek yogurt, or avocado. Don't take it at night. It can interfere with sleep. D3 is a fat-soluble vitamin, so long-term overdose can cause calcium buildup, leading to constipation, headaches, kidney stones, or nausea. Never exceed 4000 IU per day without medical advice. Can food provide enough D3? Almost never. 100 g of salmon contains about 500 IU. One egg has only 40 IU. A glass of fortified milk provides about 100 IU. That means to get 1000 IU per day from food alone, you'd need to eat fatty fish, eggs, and milk every single day. Something unrealistic for most older adults. Taking a D3 supplement is simple, cheap, and easy to manage. If you don't get much sun, experience cramps, get up slowly, feel slightly unsteady, or have osteoporosis, vitamin D3 should be your top priority. Vitamin D3 isn't magic, but it's the first thing that needs to be restored if you want strong legs again. It doesn't just protect your bones, it helps your muscles move properly and in sync. If you feel like your body is slowing down, it might just be time to flip the switch that's been off for too long. Vitamin B12, reconnecting your legs to your brain. There are days when you walk and your steps don't feel steady. It's like the ground beneath you is unstable. Your legs are still there, but they don't seem to follow orders. You're standing, but you feel off balance. You're walking, but slightly veering. Sometimes there's a tingling sensation in your feet, like tiny pinpricks, or just a strange feeling you can't quite name. No pain, no swelling, no bruising, just a slight loss of control. And over time, it happens more often. That's a classic sign of vitamin B12 deficiency. B12 is the nutrient that helps the brain and body communicate. It works like a cable between the central nervous system and the motor system. When that cable weakens, signals slow down, become inaccurate, or get cut off. Your reflexes lag. You struggle with balance. You become more prone to falling. What's surprising is, B12 deficiency doesn't usually come from a poor diet. It comes from poor absorption. After age 60, the stomach produces less acid, which makes it harder to extract B12 from food. If you take stomach medications like omeprazole or ranitidine, metformin, or follow a low-meat diet, your risk goes up. The symptoms aren't always obvious. You might not feel numbness. Instead, you start dropping things more often. You lose focus. You feel tired even after a full night's sleep. You feel down without a clear reason. All of these can be early signs of B12 deficiency at the nerve cell level. A study from Oxford University found that older adults with B12 deficiency walked more slowly, had worse balance, and were twice as likely to fall within a year. In another trial, adults over 65 took 1 mg of B12 daily for 8 weeks, resulting in improved lower body strength, faster reflexes, and reduced numbness. The common dosage, 501,000 micrograms per day, in the form of methylcobalamin, the active form that the body can use immediately without conversion. B12 should be taken in the morning or at midday. Taking it too late can make it harder to sleep. Avoid taking it with tea or coffee as they reduce absorption. As for food, 3 ounces 85 g of beef liver contains about 70 mcg, 3 ounces of salmon about 4.5 mcg. 1 egg has just 0.5 mcg. It's very hard to get enough B12 from food alone unless you eat organ meat daily, which almost nobody does. The good news, B12 is water-soluble. Any excess is flushed out in urine. There's no known toxic dose in healthy people, but if you're on blood thinners or have chronic kidney disease, talk to your doctor first. B12 is the vitamin for nerves. It doesn't directly make muscles stronger, but without it, your muscles don't know what to do. It reconnects your legs to your brain. It helps you react quickly, stay balanced, and walk with confidence. If you often feel unsteady, get tired from standing too long, or sometimes notice a strange sensation in your feet, don't wait. Get your B12 levels checked. It's the first signal that your nerves are asking for help. Vitamin B1, real fuel for your muscles. Have you ever felt like your legs were dragging an invisible weight? Not exactly pain, not numbness, but a deep, heavy fatigue, like every step takes more effort than it should. You climb a flight of stairs but have to stop halfway. You walk a few hundred steps but feel winded and need to sit down. You might think it's your heart, maybe your age, but it could very well be a lack of vitamin B1, also known as thiamine. B1 isn't the most talked about vitamin, but it's essential to energy metabolism. Every time your body wants to move, it needs ATP, the cellular form of energy. And to produce ATP, it needs B1. Without it, the process slows down. Your muscles don't get the fuel they need. Your bones might be strong, your nerves working fine, but you've got no gas to run on. After age 60, your body's ability to absorb B1 from food drops significantly. Medications like diuretics, often used for high blood pressure and heart issues, cause your body to flush B1 out through urine faster. Alcohol, even in small amounts, blocks absorption. And if you eat little whole grain, few beans, and rarely liver, you're likely falling short without even knowing it. Signs of B1 deficiency often go unnoticed. Tired legs just from standing in the kitchen, mild calf cramps, unexplained weakness, getting winded on stairs, sometimes with a lack of appetite or motivation to move. These are your muscles saying, "We're starving for energy." A 2021 study from the University of Tokyo found that over 30% of elderly participants were B1 deficient. After supplementation, most of them walked faster, climbed stairs more easily, and noticed clear improvements in stamina. Another study in neurological sciences had people with chronic leg fatigue take 100 mg of thiamine daily. After just 1 week, 82% reported increased endurance. 68% said the heavy leg feeling was reduced. No side effects were reported. The typical therapeutic dose is 50-100 mg per day. B1 is water-soluble. Any excess gets flushed out in urine. It's best taken in the morning with a meal that includes starches and protein. Avoid taking it with coffee, tea, or alcohol, as they can block absorption. If you have diabetes, take diuretics, drink regularly, or feel drained even without exertion. It's a good idea to get your B1 levels checked as soon as possible. Vitamin B1 may not be a headline name like D3 or B12, but it could be the missing link. It fuels every movement. When you have enough, you find yourself walking easier, climbing stairs without hesitation, and no longer feeling like stopping after a few steps. You're not just getting by, you're truly moving. How to combine 3 vitamins for maximum effectiveness. 3 vitamins, D3, B12, and B1, function like links in a moving chain. Taking just one might give you a slight boost. But when you combine all 3 properly and at the right times, they can make a noticeable difference in how you move, stand up, climb stairs, or simply keep your balance in the bathroom. First thing to understand, taking enough doesn't mean your body will absorb it well. And taking all of them at once doesn't make them work faster. Each vitamin is absorbed differently at different times and interacts with different foods. The key lies in how you space them out during the day, aligned with your body's natural rhythms. Vitamin D3. D3 is fat-soluble. It needs to be taken with a meal that includes healthy fats like eggs, salmon, full-fat yogurt, or a small spoon of olive oil. The ideal time is in the morning or early afternoon, right after a meal. Do not take it on an empty stomach. Avoid taking it at night. It can increase alertness and disrupt sleep for some people. If you're taking calcium supplements, space them at least a few hours apart from D3 to avoid absorption conflicts. Vitamin B12. B12 supports nerve signaling and reflexes. Take it mid-morning or early afternoon, ideally after a light snack or lunch. B12 boosts alertness, so avoid taking it after 3 p.m. to prevent sleep troubles. Important note: coffee and black tea can inhibit B12 absorption if taken at the same time. It's best to space B12 at least 1 hour away from those drinks. Vitamin B1, thiamine. B1 is your morning ignition fuel. Take it with your first meal of the day. It doesn't need fat for absorption, but pairs well with carb-rich foods like oats, whole grain bread, or legumes to help convert it into usable energy more efficiently. You can take B1 and D3 together. Just make sure there's a proper meal included. An easy daily vitamin schedule example. Morning. Wake up and eat a breakfast of eggs, full-fat yogurt, and whole grain bread. Take B1 and D3 right after. Noon. Have lunch with a good protein source like fish, chicken, or tofu. Take B12 after eating. Stick to this rhythm daily. It helps your body absorb the vitamins consistently, eases the load on your stomach, liver, and kidneys, and allows each vitamin to do its job effectively. If you're using a multivitamin, check the ingredient list and dosages carefully. Many multivitamins for adults and seniors don't include enough of these three in effective amounts. D3 is often underdosed, sometimes below 400 IU, which is too low to correct a deficiency. B12 is often in the form of cyanocobalamin, which doesn't absorb as well as methylcobalamin. B1 is usually included only at maintenance levels, not enough to noticeably improve muscle stamina. And finally, avoid the one mistake. Don't just pop all your vitamins at once with a glass of water. That's like pouring in fuel, flipping the switch, and flooring the gas without even putting in the key. Your body needs time, food, and the right rhythm to operate efficiently. If you truly want to feel a difference, not just in numbers, but in every step you take and every time you rise from a chair, treat your vitamin routine like a strategic habit. No rushing, no randomness, no guessing, just the right way at the right time every day. If you've made it this far, chances are you're starting to feel something changing in your body. Maybe you're getting up more slowly. Maybe stairs no longer feel like something you want to climb. Maybe your steps aren't as steady or confident as they used to be. This happens to a lot of people after age 60, and unfortunately, most of them assume it's normal. But the truth is, it's not. Weakened legs aren't destiny. They're a signal, and there's something you can do about it starting today. We're talking about something very specific here, not a miracle product, not an expensive therapy, but 3 essential vitamins that many older adults are silently missing. Vitamin D3 helps muscles and bones work together again. B12 restores the connection between your brain and your movements. And B1 fuels your muscles so they can function smoothly day by day. No need to change your entire lifestyle. No need for high-intensity workouts. You just need to take the right things, take them consistently, and take them with understanding. Most important of all, acting early always works better than acting late. One small change today can prevent imbalance, falls, and mobility loss down the line. Your body still has the ability to recover if you give it what it's missing. If you found this content helpful, hit the subscribe button now. Future videos will keep sharing simple, practical health solutions. No gimmicks, just grounded in research, real-life experience, and solid advice. And if you've ever tried supplementing with any of these 3 vitamins, share your experience in the comments below. What did you feel? Did you notice any clear changes? Don't hesitate to write, because every honest story becomes a roadmap for someone else on a similar path. You can also send this video to a loved one, a friend, or a neighbor. someone you know who's struggling with their legs. One small share could mean a huge difference for someone silently suffering without knowing why. Thanks for taking the time to watch. Take care of your body, fuel your legs, and keep walking, not because you have to, but because you still can.